We're glad to have you back. Nigeria's oil production quota by OPEC has revolved around 1.8 million barrels per day as the country has repeatedly missed the target due to oil theft. According to OPEC's monthly report for April, Nigeria lost $87.04 million as crude oil production dipped by 744,000 barrels in the month of March. The report also shows that the country produced 1.413 million barrels of crude oil daily in January. This dropped to 1.378 million barrels per day in February and plunged further to 1.354 million barrels per day in March. However, the country's inability to meet its quota in OPEC has been because of activities of oil theft and some technical issues. Well, that's according to the minister, and some technical issues causing the country to lose about $1 billion a month, affecting the output, its crude oil production base. Joining me live from our Abuja studios to take a critical look at this is, of course, the impact of oil theft on Nigeria's economy and our resources and revenue. Is the Chief Executive Officer of Captree, is also a consultant to the Senate Committee on Gas, Mr. Bode Showumi. Good afternoon, Mr. Showumi. Thank you so much for your time. It's good to see you.
Thank you for having me, and good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, let's start with this decline. For months, it's been back to back. We've not met up with OPEC quota, and at this time when price of crude seems to be on the high side. I'd like your reaction to this first, before we go to the basics, and of course, understand why oil theft continues to eat deep into the fabric of Nigeria's economy.
Sorry, could you repeat the question again?
Okay, I'm saying that we've had declines with regards to crude oil production in recent times. What's your reaction to this before we stay on oil theft, which is one of the major reasons for this?
I think the issue of oil theft is systemic. So I can even say it's both systematic and systemic. Systemic to the sense that there is a part of the culture within the industry that makes it acceptable. But that's not the issue now. As of today, the company that was owned by Elumelu, when they did their first operations, they recorded about 80% of their crude production being missing. So in simple terms, if they pumped 100 barrels, they were only getting about 20 barrels at the end of the chain. Now, crude theft is not like stealing tomatoes, nor is it like stealing rice. It has some specialization to it. But more importantly, even when you steal it, it's not something you can sell on the open market. In that sense, there are certain people that can only be able to purchase it. So there is what you can call a conspiracy of the system to make that work out. So there is specialization with respect to tapping into the pipelines to steal it. There is a specialization in terms of transporting it. There are security services that are supposed to monitor these things. And then there are certain rogue organizations and maybe even nations that are involved in the process of purchasing it and paying for it. So when you look at the whole thing, it goes beyond a case of common theft. It is a conspiracy. So the government needs to step up and take responsibilities in simple terms.
Taking responsibility. In recent times, we've seen the minister, GMD, in conjunction with the military and all, going there, at least to Rivers State and some other locations where this is actually happening. And many are saying that more needs to be done. What do you make of moves like that? And what holistic action can be taken? Because, like you said, it is systematic, really systemic.
Yeah, it's good, I mean, that they go there. It shows, I mean, at least in terms of aesthetics, that there's commitment. But it goes beyond just that. The point I'm trying to say is that it is not something that happens randomly. Neither is it something that happens on the spur of the moment. This is something that takes care of, that involves careful planning. This is something that will involve the bedrock of security forces. This is something that will involve foreign nations. This is something that will involve people coming on the seas. So none of all of those things is going to happen in a completely hidden or mysterious way. So what we have in terms of crude oil theft is an elephant in the room. So it just takes somebody with boldness and the political will to make decisive actions. And I like to give these examples. You know, for those of us who are older, you will find out that between 1996 and 99, before the democratic regime came in, the nation was bedeviled with fuel scarcity. And in fact, it looked like it was impossible to have ease of fuel. But it took a week within the administration of the Obasanjo administration for all that to be resolved. And from what we hear that happened at that time, it took almost a whole division of NNPC to be replaced. It is not my place to speak to the exact actions that need to be taken, but the actions that need to be taken are things that can make this end quickly. It is not rocket science. It is not an impossible situation, but it is a situation that will take deliberate, dedicated, and consolidated actions.
I don't know. In the PIA, do we have anything that addresses oil theft, particularly maybe putting into consideration the host communities? Because this cannot be done without, they'll see when all of these activities are being carried out along their locality. Any provisions in the PIA to address this ugly trend?
I think even before the PIA, the law, the common law, makes provision for theft. I mean, somebody who takes what does not belong to him, especially something that belongs to the state, there is enough within the law to be able to make those people accountable to justice. The issue is not about the law. The issue is about the enforcement of the law and to make sure that the right thing is done. And this is symptomatic of a lot of things in Nigeria. Even if you look at the power sector, energy theft, electricity theft is commonplace. It is not so much as about the act, but it's the fact that people that do these things are not held accountable. So because there are no consequences and consequences management is zero, people are more or less encouraged to do what is wrong. Because it is in those situations that the people that do the right things, they look foolish. So rather than us allowing a system that will not encourage and promote crude oil theft as a way of being smart quote unquote, these things need to be addressed quickly. Because at the end of the day, we are playing with a system that can encourage and promote the nation to go bankrupt.
Good point. Let's talk about finance now, how this will decline revenue. We already see what's happening to allocation from the NNPC. It's already dwindling thanks to crude oil theft, according to what we are hearing. What threats does this pose to Nigeria's economy?
Well, there are two sides to it. There's the economic side, and then there's, of course, the technology side, which is basically to ensure that crude oil is produced, it is transported, and the owners get it. But however, it is important to note that the petroleum industry, the oil and gas industry as we know it, is not responsible for security. True. So in their own role is basically to produce and ensure that they transport and do what they're supposed to do. There are security forces, there is a security system, there is also a justice system, who it is incumbent upon them, who are paid, who are empowered by the Nigerian Constitution to ensure that things like crude oil theft does not happen. If the judiciary, if the military, if the police cannot do their work, who's going to do it? So in simple terms, if we do all the things that need to be done with respect to selling the crude oil, the other part of it is that after it is sold, does the money get into the treasury? When the money gets into the treasury, does it get to the benefit of the people? All those things are totally outside what a petroleum person can answer. Those are basic economic issues, those are basic financial issues, and system issues, and which those who are responsible for that should be able to answer.
You touched on, of course, when this crude is moved, some people actually buy it and all of the processes. So a lot of people are involved. It's like a chain. Now I'm going to ask that what kind of support do we need or should we expect from countries who, of course, their citizens also, come together to perpetrate acts like this?
I think that's where the foreign affairs comes in. That's where the collaboration, intergovernmental collaboration comes in. If I remember, what we can use as an example, it was about that 99 as well. The late Dora Akunyili had engagements with the government of India because as at that time, most of the fake drugs that were coming into the nation were coming in from India. And there were robust discussions. It was about a week, nothing more. And within a month, the channel for that to happen was significantly cut off. So the people who do this illegal trade are not totally unknown. It's not like there are that many. There are groups. You need to have systems. You need to have money. You need to have security forces. There are many things you need to have at a global scale to be involved in illegal crude oil. It's like illegal trading of diamonds or illegal trading of drugs. It's not something every dictionary comes in. So the people who are involved with security, international security, they have an idea of those who are involved. People also have an idea of nations where these things go. It is now the responsibility of people that know where these things happen to have discussions with the government of these people so that security, imperative security actions can start from those nations, so that even those who are trying to steal, if they are not able to sell, they can further be discouraged. But irrespective of what we do at the international level, there must be consequences for people who do what is wrong. We have people who are bordering the seas, who are monitoring the seas and all that. Somebody should ask them questions. Why are you occupying the seas and being paid daily and all of these things is happening under your nose? Is it that the people disappear, or is it that do they go under the sea? There are questions that need to be asked. And until we ask those questions and help and hold people responsible, it will just be it will just be theatrics, just pure theatrics.
The GMD said lately that there should be a special court to address issues around oil theft. That was a suggestion he made during the week. I like your reaction to that. But support with that, on the other side, President Buhari also adjusted the fiscal framework. That's for the budget of 2022 from $62 to about $73 per barrel, and also reducing the volume by 283,000 barrels per day from 1.8 to about 1.6. I want to understand why this happened, in your thoughts.
Well, the decision to make the cappings is a management decision. And because I'm not in management in NNPC, I may not be privy to it. But what we can just do is basically analyze and speculate based on what we assume to be best practice in this. Obviously, if we have production limitations and production limitations as has been explained, it just makes sense that if they are going to budget and make projections for the budget, they are going to limit what they are projecting. It's as simple as that. So we want to believe is that it's this same oil theft issues that is responsible for the reduction in the volumes. And nothing more.
All right, let's move further to talk a little bit on gas. We see the EU now coming close to Nigeria to talk about how they can do more with us with regards to gas. We know that we have proven and unproven gas reserves in Nigeria. We're not taking advantage of it as much as we should do. Mr. Shomi, I want your reaction to this. What more can we offer taking advantage of the Russia-Ukraine crisis?
Well, basically, we need to make more gas available and sell to them. It should be noted that it is not only in Nigeria that the EU approach. They also approach Egypt as well. They approach other nations who have gas reserves. It is important to note that we actually have more gas than oil. I think we are about the 10th in the world in terms of gas. But there is a difference between the gas that comes in from the wells, that's from the wellhead, and the gas that is used. So there is the difference between water that you have in the river and the water that you drink. So that's why there's a situation where people can say water everywhere and there's none of it to drink. So the gas that we have that comes out of the wellheads needs to be processed. And when it is processed, it goes into a number of things. It can become LPG, which is the liquefied natural gas. It can also be processed further to become LPG, which is petroleum gas, which is the one that used for cooking. But basically, when we are talking about transportation and export, you are talking about LPG. So it is good news that more people want to buy our gas, which means that there will be more income. However, more income for the nation does not necessarily translate to more benefit for the nation. That is now an economic issue. So the money comes into CBN, it comes into government. Whether that benefits Nigerians, that becomes a totally administrative issue.
You're the professional here, and I'd like to know more about this as we almost wrap up this part of the discussion. Government is saying it's a decade of gas. It's the time to focus on gas, and a lot of moves. We've seen the expansion plan. We've seen all of this. In your view, what's your assessment of Nigeria? Like you said, we have this in abundance. How can we get better or do better, earn more, do more with what we have?
Okay, to understand how we got to the decade of gas, we don't have to look at the global geopolitics. Energy transition is perhaps the biggest energy discussion in the world now. The renewable energy talk and the related. And Nigeria decided that gas was going to be our our fuel of choice for energy transition. And in order to promote that, they came up with the decade of gas. So a decade that will focus on the many benefits and applications of gas. One of the things that government has come up, which had been even before the decade of gas, was the gas master plan, which basically looks at a way to develop the local capacity to be able to consume gas. The idea was that given that most of our gas was exported abroad, what will happen to us in the event that people don't buy our gas or there are changes globally? Because we have huge population and we have huge consumption patterns, we had the potential to actually be able to even consume our own gas. And so the gas master plan came up with focus on 4 main areas: gas to power, which is basically the power plants that use gas; gas-based industries, those are industries that use gas as raw materials. So you are talking about methanol plants, you are talking about fertilizer, you're even talking about steel that uses a lot of gas, the related. Of course, you're also looking at industries that uses gas as fuel to power their boilers and the related, and of course, LPG. LPG, as they say, is where the rubber touches the road. So it's basically where the man on the street feels the impact of gas. So just like when you talk about the petroleum industry, petrol is basically where the man on the street feels that we're an oil and gas country. But there's a lot more to oil and gas than downstream. In fact, there's a lot more to oil and gas than the petrol. But having said that, those 4 areas constitute what made up the gas master plan, which has now been incorporated into the PIA. Those are the plans by the nation to ensure that Nigeria benefits from it. But going forward, looking at the current issues, there is an increase in the price of gas. We can export more. We can export to Europe. We can also develop the West African, the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline, which is the equivalent or asymmetrical to the Nord 2 pipeline that was built between Russia and Europe. Because if we build that, not only are we going to be able to supply gas to Europe, we will also have greater capacity in terms of diplomatic influence, to be able to have influence, to be able to be regarded within the economy of nations. So there are a lot of things over and beyond economic benefits that will come from trade with Europe. So this becomes the time for us to look at and revisit the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline, for which the controversial AKK, Ajaokuta, Kaduna, Kano pipeline is supposed to feed into, and of course to get into Europe. So if we are to look at the potential for the industry, it is interesting times, exceedingly interesting times.
Well, we've heard it from you, the right person, to tell us. We're waiting, and we'll have you in to always talk about it, even when we get to that point. Thank you so much, Mr. Bode Showumi, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Captree, is also a consultant to the Senate on Gas. Do enjoy the rest of your day.